Hello. When we talk about musicians of the past, we can almost hear the sound of shortwave radio struggling to capture the passage of time. And in that faint transmission, the unmistakable voice of Seva Novgorodtsev. In one of his broadcasts, this name was mentioned, Terry Reid. Reid is a true phenomenon, as the title of this video suggests. Of course, he turned down Deep Purple, several times in fact, and under various circumstances. But still, it's a fact. Numerous biographers of these bands confirm it. And Reid himself, now 75 years old, his birthday is on November 13th, speaks about it without regret. He even says, "Thank God I wasn't in those bands." Interestingly, he is still an active musician, collaborating with many artists. When people ask him, "What are you up to these days?" "Haven't heard from you in a while," he simply replies, "I'm always working." Between 2002 and 2012, he was a regular guest at the famous Glastonbury Festival in England. He remained active, but his real golden era was the late 1960s and early 1970s. The golden age of rock music. He started out in England, born, as mentioned, on November 13th, 1949. He was something of a child prodigy, already playing in professional bands at the age of 15. He was quickly noticed, toured extensively, and even opened for the legendary Rolling Stones during their 1966 UK tour. That same year, he caught the attention of the famous producer Mickie Most, a close associate of Peter Grant, who would later become the legendary, unofficial fifth member of Led Zeppelin. We've talked about him before. The British rock scene, especially in London, was a tight-knit community. Everyone knew each other, including one highly sought-after session guitarist, Jimmy Page. After the Yardbirds disbanded, Page set out to form a new band, and Terry Reid was one of his top choices for the lead vocalist. The first candidate to drop out was Chris Farlowe, whom Jimmy Page knew well. Farlowe went on to have a solid career. He sang on Page's 1968 solo recordings, delivering some outstanding performances. In the early 1970s, he had a solid lineup, but chose a different path. Reid, on the other hand, was exactly what Page was looking for. He was more than just a talented singer. He was a pop star on the rise, a charismatic young performer with a magnetic stage presence. However, Mickie Most was adamant. "No bands, you're going solo." So Reid pursued a solo career, opening for major acts in Britain. Meanwhile, Page was frustrated, and Peter Grant told him, "We won't be able to take Reid from Mickie Most. Find someone else." And then Reid made a fateful suggestion. He introduced them to a young singer from Band of Joy, Robert Plant. Not only that, but he also pointed them to a drummer, saying, "You'll need one, and there's a guy who's an absolute bomb." That drummer was John Bonham. The rest is history. We've talked about this on our channel before, so we won't repeat the details. But Terry Reid played a crucial role. He was the one who brought Robert Plant into what would become Led Zeppelin. As for his own career, it never really took off. He became more of a cult figure in the rock scene. However, Ritchie Blackmore also noticed him. Deep Purple had issues with their original singer, Rod Evans. We covered this in a previous video. They needed a new frontman, and Terry Reid was once again considered. And once again, he turned it down, for the same reason. He believed his solo career would be more successful than joining a band. Looking back, he may have had regrets. He had the chance to join two of the greatest rock bands in history. Had he said yes, he might have become a legendary figure. Instead, he remained a well-respected, yet somewhat obscure musician. He did, however, have some notable moments. He performed at Mick Jagger and Bianca's wedding. He released solid solo albums, including ones in 1973 and 1976. At one point, he even ventured into Brazilian music, becoming close friends with Caetano Veloso, who had been exiled from Brazil in the late 60s. In 2016, his album Seed of Memory was reissued on CD. It included material from his 1973 album, along with unreleased session recordings. In 1991, he released Driver, produced by the legendary Trevor Horn. We've also covered him on our channel. Over the years, Reid collaborated with many artists and contributed to various musical styles, including pop groups that gained popularity in the late 90s and early 2000s. But his time in the spotlight had passed. When Led Zeppelin was forming, many musicians were approached, and many turned it down. Most later regretted it. Perhaps Reid did too. His life could have taken a completely different turn. Nevertheless, his music lives on. Thanks to the internet, you can still listen to it today. There are even some live performances on YouTube, though they are rare. So take a moment to check out this remarkable musician, singer, and guitarist.